Good morning, universe. These are the Jupiter Files for Friday, July 23rd. My name is Bryan Lunduke. We got a lot of cool news stories to cover today. Yesterday we weren't around. You may or may not have noticed, and the internet went down. Whole thing decided that we were uncovering too much awesome news and truth, and they took me down for the day. We had just some FiOS outage around town here, but it was very, very rough for me. I had no internet access for nearly 5 hours, and I don't know how I made it through. To be honest with you, it was a hard day. But we're back now, and they swear that I'll continue to have internet access, which turns out is important in producing and delivering a show on the internet. Didn't know that before. Know it now. All right, we're going to kick things off today. I actually have two conferences I want to mention. There's a lot going on in the month of July. It's summer. It's exciting times. And the Mutual UFO Network, the MUFON, is having their symposium over in Denver, Colorado this week. It's actually going on right now, but it goes through this weekend as well. And there's a bunch of sessions and whatnot going on through the weekend. You can find more information on that over actually at MUFON.com, where they have their little symposium. Time is running out, but you can still get in on that. It's MUFON.com. That is the Mutual UFO Network. Now, for those of you who have not heard of the Mutual UFO Network, it is very much kind of the definitive for finding UFO information, for UFO studies, for UFO research, and for cataloging UFO events and sightings. So MUFON is actually pretty cool. They keep kind of a running track tally of where the sightings come in, how many people saw them, where the sightings were at, all that good stuff. And because that information is all tracked, there is a rather nifty little tool called the Ufo Stalker. Now, you may not lend any credence to UFOs. You may not lend any credence to any of these sorts of things, but this is still fairly cool in that it actually tracks the live feed of where these sightings are coming from. So in here you can see, hover over here, it gets an unidentified craft sighting over Malibu at a specific time. When was it submitted? When was the site seen? Where was it at? You can just kind of take a look at the map. And the cool thing is then you can look worldwide and really see where things are coming from. Very, very cool in my opinion. Does it necessarily mean anything? No, but it's still very, very cool. And it definitely helps you to track where the hotbeds of either UFO activity are, or the hotbeds of, if you're on the other side of the fence, mass insanity are, I guess, and where people think they're seeing UFOs. And it could just be, that they're really, these sightings are all clustered around active military bases and the like. Who knows? But it's still very, very cool. The other thing going on right now is, let's see if I can bring this up here. The Psychic and Paranormal Fair in Fort Knox, Maine is going on July 31st through August 1st. So that is next weekend. That is a week from tomorrow that kicks off. And that is exactly what it sounds like. It is a 2-week or a 2-day long fair, basically just kind of a simple informal fair around the paranormal, predominantly psychic sort of things. Lots of card readers and the like will be there. There will be a little bit of UFO coverage there. A couple of individuals from their local UFO enthusiast community will be there to talk about UFOs, but predominantly it's going to be psychics and tarot card reading, and there's even a presentation on exorcism. So honestly, if it's a nice sunny day, it could be kind of cool. If you haven't seen Fort Knox, Maine, which I have not, but I've checked out the pictures. It looks actually very, very cool. It's a kind of a little state park out there, so kind of worth checking out. All right, so on to the news. Now, we were off yesterday, so we missed some of the cool stuff that was going on yesterday. Typically, what we're going to be doing is every Friday will be a call-in show. But that assumes that I'm allowed to have internet access on Thursday and do a show. So because I was not able to do a show on Thursday, we're not going to have a call-in show today because there's just too much stuff to cover. There's too much good stuff out there. There's too many weird things to report on. We're going to have a call-in show next week on next Friday. We're just going to make that kind of a standard thing going forward. But for today, no call-in. We're just going to do the news. Just going to do the news. Make it nice and simple. Just going to do the news. And we're going to kick that off with yet another UFO sighting. Now, can you see it there? Can you see it? Right there in the center of the sky in that photo. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day down there in, what's the exact name of the place? Turan Beach Resort. There's a little flying saucer up there. Or at least what looks like a little flying saucer. In fact, it looks almost oddly perfect. It looks very much like a movie, Independence Day flying through the clouds, sort of flying saucer, which is, kind of cool. Now, the interesting thing with this photo is it was in a fairly populous area. I mean, it was at a resort. The kind of place where people are walking around and looking out at the blue water, checking out the blue sky. They're really taking in the scenery because it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place there. And a couple of people have come forward as having seen it. People say that it hung around for about 20 seconds before it just kind of disappeared. It just went away. And a few people say that they tried to get pictures. So they pulled out their cell phones, and the cell phones just didn't work. Now, one of these photos did manage to get taken. It's a pretty decent photo, but this one photo by itself doesn't mean much of anything. And because there's only one photo, it becomes very hard to tell what the authenticity of the photo is. Was it doctored? Was it not? And even if it weren't doctored, we're only getting this from one angle, so could it be just some sort of optical illusion? Could it be just a uniquely odd pattern in the clouds? It could be. But without seeing it from multiple angles, it's very, very hard to tell. But I think it was a very interesting one, only because you don't often see UFO sightings that look that pretty. You see ones where it's nighttime and you get a light out in the distance. There's a light that looks oddly reminiscent to a car headlight. There's actually a couple of them that were reported in the last day or two. One down in Arizona, where there's lots of video, lots of photos. People took pictures and videos of it, and we have a lot of footage. But it just literally looks like a headlight sitting off on the side of a mountain, and it's moving around a little bit. And sometimes it disappears, and sometimes it comes back, and well, kind of like a car or an off-road vehicle driving around on the side of a mountain. So it's just not all that interesting. It's not that compelling. Could it be an extraterrestrial craft? Sure. I mean, we don't have enough. We can't see it enough to tell if it's a dirt bike or a tank or a car or a spaceship from an alien planet, or who knows. Hell, it could be just a guy walking around with a really, really big flashlight. So it's very difficult to tell. But this one, I'm going to put that back up here just because it's so very pretty. Look at that guy. Look at that. Ignore the little advertisement on the right there. But it's just this beautiful sky. Honestly, it would make a great wallpaper. I'd love a high resolution version of this with a little flying saucer just hovering there in the middle. It's just almost too pretty. I like that. I want more of that. So people out there looking for UFOs, please take pictures of UFOs that look like this. That's much cooler. I need more of these from these events. I need more than one photo from an event like this. But that's much better. Completely unrelated. I just had to mention this because it's just too darn freaky. This is a two-headed, six-legged dragon. This right here it was just acquired by the Venice Beach Freak Show, which it's a 2.5-month-old, two-headed bearded dragon. So it's 2 heads, 6 legs, a little conjoined twin bearded dragon there. Just crazy looking. Just absolutely crazy looking. This is not paranormal. This is not UFOs. This is definitely not anything from another planet. This is merely crazy looking. I look at this thing and I'm like, whoa, that's insane. That is just truly insane. And I can't help but stop and look at that and think, that's crazy looking. I have no deep insight, no knowledge to impart upon you, no witty saying. I can't even begin to correlate this to life on other planets or people contacting you from beyond the grave. But look at that. That is a tiny little dragon with 6 legs and 2 heads. And it is looking at you right now. And that is just too much. So had to mention that. That was just very, very cool. Crazy stuff happens. All right. Now let's get into something that's a little bit more news-ish. So some of you may be familiar with a gentleman by the name of Robert Bigelow. He's a billionaire, big guy. I don't know how big he is, but size wise. But he's made a lot of money in the hotel space. The Budget Suites of America. Which I don't even know what hotel line that is. Yeah, Budget Suites of America. He's made a lot of money from that, and so he's a billionaire, and he's started the Bigelow Aerospace Company, which has 2 space modules, Genesis 1 and 2, and he's been building up plans for large manned space habitats for use as orbital hotels and research laboratories and orbital factories and the like. Very, very cool that to see that sort of thing going on. It's much like what's happening with Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic. We get where the people in the private sector pushing forward for either space in terms of using as a factory base or as a science base or as a tourism base, which seems the most common, at least in terms of what's being reported. So that's very, very cool. You may also remember him. He founded an organization called the National Institute for Discovery Science, which was kind of a paranormal. Paranormal is the wrong word. People involved in that might take offense to that, but fringe science, I guess, would be kind of the way to go. Study of UFOs, strange events. That's kind of the best way I can think of to describe it. Anomalies. There we go. Quote from one of the individuals, the deputy administrator of the National Institute for Discovery Science, said, "We don't study aliens. We study anomalies. They're the same thing in a lot of people's minds, but not in our minds." Anyway, so the National Institute for Discovery Science actually closed down. It was open for about 10 years, from the mid '90s through about 2004. But to bring this up, so Robert Bigelow, the guy behind all of that, he's also given millions of dollars to SETI and to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network that we mentioned earlier. Came out recently in the New York Times and said the following, and I quote, "I've been a researcher and student of UFOs for many years. Anybody that does research, if people bother to do quality research, come away absolutely convinced. You don't have to have personal encounters. People have been killed. People have been hurt. It's more than observational kind of data." Now that's it. That's really all that was said. There was other comments and the like, but nothing that backs that up with what people have been hurt and killed, specifically where, when, and what we know about him. and the non-observational data that would lead him to believe that he's absolutely convinced that in the fact that there are extraterrestrials at least visiting Earth, which is kind of what he's saying here. So I mean, obviously Robert Bigelow is not he's not a Stephen Hawking's kind of guy. He's a guy who made a ton of money in hotels and the like. So take that with a grain of salt. But I do find it interesting that someone who's willing to dedicate that immense amount of money to organizations to study these topics, as well as to more hard science and hard commercialism of space tourism and the like, with Bigelow Aerospace, is very comfortable coming out and saying in the New York Times statements like that. I like that. I want to see more of that. Well, I should say, it's not that I want to see more of that. It's that if people who have the resources do feel that there is good hard evidence one way or the other on whether it's extraterrestrial life or related topics, that I would like to see them step forward and feel comfortable in taking a public stance on that topic, just because it helps to either lend credence or at the very least to shed some light onto a topic that I think is fairly important. All right, moving right along. Now here's a little more hard science for you. Now, just over the last couple of weeks, there have been a number of Earth-sized planets discovered. In fact, more than 100 Earth-sized planets have been discovered in the last couple of weeks. I believe the last 2 to 3 weeks, from the Kepler telescope, which was launched in January, I believe, of 2009, and it just looks very, very cool. I love the fact that we're seeing more and more possibilities that there are planets out there suitable for life and in the way that we would recognize it. If not humans, then human-like, or some form of life that we could actually integrate with somehow. For lack of a better word. But what I love about that is it's only been these only couple of weeks, hundreds, more than 100. So probably less than 200. It doesn't say an exact number that I could find here of Earth-sized planets. Now, obviously, not all of them are going to be able to be the right temperature, and then probably very, very few of them, in fact. And then on top of that, there has to be so many other variables into play that would actually make it capable of supporting carbon-based life in a way that we would be able to easily identify and relate to it. But still, it's very cool. It opens up more possibilities than we had before, and I like that. I like opening up more possibilities. More possibilities is cool. Less possibilities, less cool. That's how that works. All right, we're going to switch gears again. Here we go. That is a whale jumping on a boat. That's pretty much all I got to say on that. That is a whale that jumped on a boat. He jumped out of the water and onto a boat. Soak that in for a minute. Again, not aliens, not UFOs, but a whale on a boat. Good times. Very, very good times. All right, now let's go back to the news. All right, last main story for today. And this one is, again, a little bit hard science, a little bit speculation. Now, previously, now I'm trying to think exactly when here. This was early in the year. There was a study, and I was reading an article actually over at space.com. I believe I read this, where they're kind of beginning to think. Scientists are thinking that the moon has a lot more water on it than we previously thought. In fact, about 100 times more water than we thought there would be. Now, they're not thinking there's, lakes and rivers and streams running around all over the place, but that the rocks themselves have about 100 times more water within it than we previously thought. Now, and the interesting thing is they're actually thinking that water is more native to the moon. So, the water was created as the moon was formed and trapped within the rocks. Now, that's actually very, very cool from the point of view of what can we do with the moon. Of not necessarily are there a ton of moon men running around drinking rock water, but more importantly, what can we accomplish with this rock that's sitting in the sky up there? And this starts to lend quite a few possibilities. And then you add something like this to the mix, where there is theoretically tunnels. That is the idea right now. There have been the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has begun to find some evidence that there would be tunnels within the moon. Quite a few, in fact, that would be usable. Now, of course, this is all somewhat speculation at this point, based on what we can see on the terrain and other evidence. We'd have to actually go to places where we thought there were moon tunnels and actually explore them and go into them and see what's to be found. But the current thinking is that if you have expansive networks of tunnels within the moon, and you have significantly more water within the rocks on the moon, especially far below the surface, you then have a potential to inhabit the moon in a much better way. Now, in tunnels beneath the moon, they're thinking, you'd have a much more consistent temperature than on the surface. It'd still be very cold. They're actually thinking between -30 and -40 degrees Celsius. So nippy. But if you have a consistent temperature range, then you can plan for that. You can insulate properly and make sure you have good heating. I'm sure your baseboard heating bills would be fairly high, but you can actually work with that, and then you can make habitats on the moon a much bigger reality. Now, of course, I mean that's still pending, the organizations and the governments and the businesses of Earth deciding that it's worthwhile financially to go up there and do that. Now, why governments would not want to do that really boggles my mind. I know there are cases to be made for, why spend, $50 gazillion, roughly, ballpark, to go to the moon and build a series of habitable tunnels? Why do that? When we can spend that $50 gazillion feeding the poor, or building new roads, or the like, new infrastructure here on Earth to make our lives better, provide national health care for everybody, etc. And that makes me incredibly sad. And I want people to eat. I would like better roads because I don't like traffic. I would also like better health care. These are all things I want. But I also don't want to be one of those people that stops reaching for those crazy, crazy goals. When America, and it was America, when NASA, when we sent our first round of astronauts to the moon and we landed on it and we walked around on it and we planted that big old flag on it and we left our footprints on the moon, that was awesome. That was beyond awesome. Everyone watched. The world watched and was blown away. And it still inspires the imagination. I mean, I don't know if I've got it behind me here. I've got a couple of anniversary plates, commemorating the first landing on the moon. It still makes me a little misty that we accomplished that. We did that amazing thing. And it seems sad that we'd pull back. I mean, we've pulled back so much. We consistently cut the budget of our aerospace divisions. I mean, NASA's budget keeps getting slashed. And, we've had presidents come out and say, oh, we're going to go to the Mars now. Let's go to Mars. Awesome. That's great. Let's go to Mars. And then immediately the same presidents turn around and slash NASA's budget and say, no Mars. And it just seems like every president we have, it just gets worse and worse. We stop reaching for the stars. We stop pushing forward. We stop trying to attain the unattainable. And to me, that stifles the human mind and stifles what we can accomplish. It's very sad. It's very, very sad to me that we're not going for that. And so I look at things like this, these finds that habitable tunnels on the moon with significantly more water than we had. And I think, well, maybe the combination here begins to give enough of a commercial incentive, enough of a commercial application to start to get the private sector to a point where they can justify funding of these sorts of things. If the government can't do it and doesn't want to do it and doesn't like the awesomeness of moon, come on. Who doesn't want to see whatever government you live in? If you live in Norway, don't you want to see little Norway on the moon? You be the first country with a colony on the moon. Don't you want that? Who wouldn't say that's awesome? Only stupid people. Only stupid people would say it's not awesome. So anyway, I hope that finds like this will come out and push that forward and give corporations such as Virgin or heck or Boeing or I don't even care, IBM or Microsoft. Hell, if IBM or Microsoft want to put a colony on the moon, I'm all for that. Little Boeing, little IBM, that's fine as long as we humans get ourselves up to that rock, plant a flag on it, build a whole thing a network under there underground where we can live in a sustainable way. Just plain awesome. Anyway, that's all I've got for this episode of the Jupiter Files. If you would like to discuss any of the topics we've talked about on the show, you can do so over at the Jupiter Colony, jupitercolony.com. You can also check out the Jupiter Broadcasting Facebook page at facebook.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. You'll notice we like to keep things easy to type in and remember for the URLs. It's very nice. You can also get a hold of me over at lunduke.com. That's my personal blog. I try to post the latest show up over there. You can also find the latest show at jupiterbroadcasting.com along with all the other nerdy kind of shows that we do at Jupiter Broadcasting. That's it for this week. Next week, we're going to be moving away from the space a little bit in the beginning of the week, and we're going to be talking about some of the non-spacey topics at the beginning of the week. And Friday, we will be having our live call-in show, so get your Skype fired up and ready, and prepare yourself with super awesome things to call in about. That's it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and hey, have an awesome weekend, man.
Contains hundreds of patrol ships about the universe.